Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to take a deep dive into, Damascus and some pretty wild stuff going on over there. And, trying to connect those events to, all those ancient prophecies about the end of days.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. So our primary source is, it's a YouTube video. It's packed with like all sorts of Jewish mystical interpretations, and it gets pretty deep, but don't worry, we'll break it down and try to help you guys navigate all these, all the details.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot to unpack.
It really is, but it's also super fascinating. So anyway, the video, it jumps right into this prediction, and it's called the Star of Jacob prophecy. Have you heard of this?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So for those who haven't, it talks about this comet, right? Appearing on a very specific date, the 25th of Elul, a Friday. And along with that, there's going to be this destruction. 3 buildings. They house a tormentor of Israel in a city of Rome. And what really struck me was how they connected this prophecy to, like actual events. Real world stuff.
Right.
Like it's not just, some vague prediction.
Yeah.
It's linked to something concrete.
Well, they make a parallel to the destruction of Hezbollah headquarters in Beirut.
Oh, right. Wrong.
And the death of their leader.
Yeah.
Which actually happened on September 27th, 2023, which was the 25th of Elul, a Friday.
Wow.
And while Beirut might not be, Rome in the traditional sense, it was historically a significant Roman capital in the region.
That's right. Yeah. Which makes the connection even more wild.
Yeah.
But hold on, there's more to this prophecy, right? It doesn't stop with the comet and the Beirut thing.
No, it goes on.
What else does it say?
It says that 70 days after the comet's appearance, a massive earthquake is going to hit.
Ooh.
In and around Jerusalem.
An earthquake. Like that sounds pretty catastrophic. Especially in that region.
Yes.
I mean, they're already prone to earthquakes.
They are. And that's where, you have to be careful interpreting these ancient texts.
Right.
You need a nuanced approach because a literal earthquake on that scale, I mean, it would be devastating.
Yeah.
Widespread devastation, including in Israel.
Right. It would affect everyone.
So maybe we need to think about it more symbolically.
Okay. So not a physical earthquake, like the ground shaking. But then what else could it signify?
Well, the expert in the video, he suggests it could point to a major political upheaval.
Okay.
Like a metaphorical earthquake.
Interesting. Like something that reshapes the whole, the power dynamics.
Right.
And think about this. Shortly after that 70-day mark, didn't we see the Assad regime fall?
Exactly. In Syria.
Yeah.
A major political shift, the fall of the Assad regime in Syria.
Yeah, that was huge. I mean, rebels took control of Damascus. It ended like over 50 years of Assad family rule. That was a massive shakeup in the Middle East.
It really was.
It was. But why Damascus? What makes the fall of that particular city so significant, in the context of all this end of days stuff?
Well, Damascus has a very long history and a very complex one, It's interwoven with biblical narratives and prophecies. And actually, it's first mentioned in the Bible. It predates Jerusalem.
Really?
We encounter it in Genesis 14.
Okay.
During the story of Abraham, when he's pursuing the people who had kidnapped his nephew Lot.
Ah, okay. So Damascus was already like a major player even back then.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
And this story introduces another fascinating element. King Melchizedek.
Oh, yeah.
This mysterious figure. He's a priest of the Most High God.
Right.
And he greets Abraham in Jerusalem after his victory and blesses him.
Yeah. I remember that story. It's always like it's shrouded in mystery.
It is. And Jewish tradition, it offers an even deeper layer of intrigue by identifying Melchizedek as none other than Shem.
Shem, Noah's son. What was he doing in Jerusalem?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. According to tradition, Shem wasn't just the first Cohen. Yeah, the Hebrew term for priest.
Okay.
But also he was the builder of the first city in Jerusalem.
So we've got Abraham, we've got Shem, we've got Jerusalem, Damascus, all in this one story.
All intertwined. Yeah.
It's incredible how these connections span, millennia.
I know.
It's crazy. It's like a thread running through history.
It is. And the connections don't stop there. The group that seized control in Syria the Syria conquest front.
Right, right.
They call themselves Al-Sham in Arabic.
Al-Sham.
Which translates to the land of Shem.
Wow. So even the name of this new regime, it echoes this ancient biblical figure. It's like history is rhyming. Like, what was it? Mark Twain? Didn't he say that?
Something like that.
Yeah. But let's move on to another connection between Damascus and Jerusalem that the video highlights.
Okay.
It's the Zohar.
The Zohar.
Yeah. You know, the central text of Jewish mysticism, it emphasizes a fascinating linguistic link between the two cities. It points out that the Hebrew letters for Damascus and Mikdash, which means holy temple, are identical.
Wow, I never noticed that.
Isn't that incredible?
That is amazing.
I never noticed it before either. So there's this deeper, almost mystical connection between Damascus and the spiritual heart of Jerusalem.
Precisely. And there's a historical parallel too, you know.
Oh.
King Ahaz, who ruled over the southern kingdom of Judah,
right.
He was so impressed by a temple that he saw in Damascus that he actually remodeled the Jerusalem temple to resemble it.
Wait, are you serious? The Jerusalem temple, the one we always, read about and everything, it was based on a design from Damascus.
It's an intriguing detail, isn't it?
It is. It's amazing how the Bible unveils these fascinating connections, things you wouldn't even notice.
Didn't even think about it.
Yeah. And speaking of connections, there's another very physical one that comes to mind. The Damascus Gate in Jerusalem's Old City.
Ah, yes.
Right.
A tangible reminder of the ancient relationship between those two cities.
Exactly. And right beneath that gate lies another fascinating piece of this whole puzzle, Zedekiah's Cave.
Ooh.
Have you ever been down there?
I have not. I've heard of it.
I've heard of it, but I don't really know much about it. What's so special about this cave?
Well, it's a massive underground complex.
Yeah.
It's shrouded in mystery and lore.
Okay.
Some people believe that that's where King Solomon quarried the stones for the first temple. Others speculate that it served as a hiding place for the Ark of the Covenant.
Oh, wow.
It even holds a special significance for Freemasons who consider it a sacred site.
It's like a portal to another time, filled with secrets and whispers of the past. It definitely adds another layer to this whole Damascus-Jerusalem connection.
Yeah.
It's crazy. But let's go back to the end of days for a second. Where does this Zohar prophecy about a third temple extending all the way to Damascus, where does that fit into all of this?
Well, it's highly unlikely that this refers to a literal, like a physical structure,
right,
stretching hundreds of miles.
Right.
A more plausible interpretation is that it symbolizes an era of peace and unity, where borders become irrelevant and everyone has access to the spiritual heart of Jerusalem.
So not a giant building, but a metaphorical expansion,
right,
of Jerusalem's spiritual influence, reaching out to encompass even Damascus. It's like a vision of global harmony centered around Jerusalem.
Precisely. And there's also a midrash, a collection of rabbinic interpretations and stories.
Right.
That takes Zechariah's prophecy about the third temple more literally. It suggests that Jerusalem's physical borders will actually expand to include Damascus.
Which wouldn't be totally unprecedented, historically speaking. I mean, King David conquered Damascus,
right,
and made it part of his kingdom.
That's true.
Yeah.
So the idea of Damascus being incorporated into a greater Israel, it has a historical basis.
Okay. So we've got these ancient prophecies, we've got biblical narratives, we've got current events. And they all seem to be converging on this idea of a major shift in the Middle East.
Yes.
With Damascus at the center. But what does it mean for the bigger picture? What does it mean for us, for the world, for the future?
That's the ultimate question, isn't it? And to answer it, I think we need to delve a little deeper.
Okay.
Into the prophecies of Jeremiah and the Zohar, where we encounter tales of ancient oppressors returning at the end of days, palaces being plundered, and even the concept of reincarnation.
Oh, whoa, hold on. Reincarnation. That's a whole other rabbit hole.
It is.
We need to explore that. It seems like there's even more to this story than we initially thought.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It really is. Maybe we should save those insights for our next segment. Let our listeners digest everything we've covered so far.
Sounds good. Give them a chance to catch their breath.
Because it's a lot to take in.
It is. Yeah, there's definitely a lot more to explore. We were talking about the connection between Damascus and Jerusalem last time. historically and in the context of end of days prophecies. Maybe we should pick up where we left off.
Go.
With those prophecies from Jeremiah in the Zohar you mentioned.
Okay, yeah. Remind me, which prophecies are we talking about specifically?
Well, the prophecy in Jeremiah 49, it talks about the destruction of Damascus and specifically mentions the palace of Ben-Hadad.
Oh, yeah, Ben-Hadad. Wasn't he like that powerful Aramean king who was a big adversary of Israel back in biblical time?
That's the one. Yeah, his name became synonymous with the ruling dynasty of Damascus. What's interesting is that Jeremiah, writing centuries later, he still uses that name, Ben-Hadad.
Okay.
Almost like it's a title that transcends any specific individual.
Like how the Egyptians used Pharaoh for their rulers over centuries.
Exactly. And the prophecy foretells the destruction of Ben-Hadad's palace.
Okay.
And this detail has a startling relevance to recent events.
You're talking about the looting of Assad's palace. That was all over the news.
It's a striking parallel, wouldn't you say?
It is.
But there's an even deeper connection. The numerical value, the gematria of both Ben-Hadad and Assad, it's 65.
Hold on. Back up for a second. What's gematria for those of us who aren't familiar with it?
Of course, gematria is it's a system in Jewish mysticism that it assigns numerical values to Hebrew letters and words to find hidden connections and meanings within the text.
So this numerical link between this ancient Aramean king and the modern Syrian dictator, that's not just a coincidence.
In the world of Jewish mysticism, such numerical correspondences are often seen as meaningful. It ties into a prophecy from the Zohar, which predicts that ancient oppressors of Israel will return at the end of days.
So are you suggesting that Assad could be like a reincarnation of Ben-Hadad? Maybe even Nero, considering those theories about wicked souls returning,
Well, the Zohar doesn't explicitly name names.
Yeah.
But it does suggest that souls can return throughout history. Right. The video even mentions Saddam Hussein.
Oh, okay.
Believing that he was the reincarnation of Nebuchadnezzar.
Huh. That's fascinating. It definitely adds another layer of complexity to these events. But if Assad's fall is part of this larger prophetic timeline, what happens next? What's the next chapter?
Well, the expert in the video, he highlights another prophecy attributed to Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai, the author of the Zohar. And this prophecy, it talks about the fall of the Nero in Damascus as a sign of imminent redemption.
So Assad's removal is just the beginning. There's more to come.
According to this prophecy, yes.
Yeah.
It describes a 7-year period marked by unusual weather, famine, and escalating conflicts, all culminating in the arrival of the Messiah.
That reminds me of the prophecy in the Talmud about the final week before the Messianic era.
Yes.
It details a similar sequence of events.
Yeah.
Each year bringing, increasing challenges and tribulations.
Yeah. The parallels they're striking.
They are.
And that Talmudic prophecy, it also mentions a comet, doesn't it?
It does.
Perhaps that's connected to the Star of Jacob.
Possibly.
That we discussed earlier.
The expert in the video, he did mention that the text of Rabbi Shimon's prophecy is incomplete.
Right.
And needs to be kind of considered alongside the Talmudic version to really understand the full scope of those 7 years. But the addition of a comet, especially one linked to specific events, it definitely adds a compelling dimension to this whole apocalyptic puzzle.
It does. And speaking of compelling events, there have been some very interesting developments in Israel recently.
Oh,
that might tie into all of this.
I haven't had a chance to really catch up on the news. What's been happening?
The IDF just captured Mount Hermon.
Wow, that's a big deal. Mount Hermon, that's the highest peak in the region. It's strategically and spiritually significant.
Very much so.
It's even mentioned in the Bible, isn't it, as the site of the Transfiguration, where Jesus revealed his divine nature.
Exactly. And its significance in this context goes even deeper.
Yeah.
Mount Hermon is also associated with the death of Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai.
Oh, wow.
The author of the Zohar, whose final words were from Psalm 133.
Okay.
which speaks of the dew of Hermon descending upon Zion, symbolizing resurrection and eternal life.
So the capture of Mount Hermon,
Right.
coupled with the fall of Damascus.
Yeah.
These events, I mean, they seem to hold a really deep symbolic resonance within this whole prophetic framework.
They do.
Yeah.
And to add another layer to this intricate puzzle, the expert in the video, he introduces the Kabbalistic principle of tikkunim, or rectifications.
I'm somewhat familiar with the concept of tikkun olam, repairing the world, but what are these specific tikkunim?
Sure. There are 4 major tikkunim, each associated with a number, and a symbolic event. First, you have tikkun rishit, which is associated with the number 288, and it represents rectifying the shattered vessels of creation. Then there's tikkun kala, associated with the number 138, which involves rectification through flowing water. Third is tikkun sak, associated with the number 400, and it represents rectification through sackcloth and ashes. And finally, you have tikkun shek, which is associated with the number 320, and it represents rectifying the 320 paths of judgment.
These sound very abstract. How do these concepts relate to the events unfolding in the Middle East?
Well, this is where the video's interpretation gets really interesting. Think about the recent events we've been discussing.
Okay.
The conflict in Gaza.
Right.
Ending at the Litani River in Lebanon. The fall of Damascus.
Yeah.
And the implications for Iran. These events can be seen as aligning with the 4 tikkunim.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about how these specific events connect to these tikkunim.
So the conflict in Gaza, with its initial destruction,
right,
and the need for rebuilding, it represents tikkun rishit.
Yeah.
The rectification of the shattered vessels of creation, symbolized by the number 288.
That makes sense. What about the war ending at the Litani River?
Well, that aligns with tikkun kala, the 138,
okay,
with the flowing water of the river, symbolizing purification and renewal. Then you have the fall of Damascus, which corresponds to tikkun sak, the 400.
Okay.
Sackcloth and ashes are ancient symbols of repentance and transformation, representing a necessary step towards redemption.
Okay. So if those 3 events align with the first 3 tikkunim, what about the fourth one, tikkun shek?
That's where Iran comes into the picture.
Okay.
Tikkun shek, the 320, it represents rectifying the 320 paths of judgment. The video suggests that Iran is the final piece of this prophetic puzzle.
Wow, that's a lot to take in. It's like a roadmap to redemption is playing out right before our eyes. But what does the fall of the Shek of Iran actually look like, and how might it usher in the Messianic era?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it? And while the video doesn't provide any specific answers,
right,
it definitely prompts us to consider the possibilities.
It does.
And maybe even re-examine our own roles in these tumultuous times.
It certainly does. We've covered a lot of ground in this segment. I think it's time to pause.
Okay.
And give our listeners some time to process these complex ideas. We can pick up this conversation in our next segment, delve into some of the implications of these prophecies.
Sounds good.
And explore what they might mean for the future.
It is a lot to ponder. We've been going through this intricate web of prophecies and historical events and these mystical interpretations,
Yeah.
Trying to make sense of what's happening in Damascus and what it all means, in this whole end of days context.
Yeah, it's definitely been a mind expanding journey so far. But I think it's, we need to step back for a second and ask the important question, what does all of this actually mean for us, for the world today? Should we be like packing our bags for Jerusalem, stocking up on canned goods?
Right. That's a great question and a very common reaction. When you start digging into these prophecies, people get a little anxious. But it's important to remember that these prophecies, while they're, fascinating and thought-provoking, they're not meant to be taken as like literal predictions.
Yeah.
Like a set in stone timetable.
So it's not like a countdown clock.
No.
Where we can mark off the events as they happen and then calculate the exact arrival date of the Messiah.
No, it's more about understanding the deeper spiritual forces at play and the potential pathways that humanity might take. These prophecies, they offer us guidance, insight, but ultimately the future it's unwritten.
Okay, so how should we approach these prophecies then in a way that's meaningful, and relevant to our lives today?
I think the key lies in understanding their core message, which is that we're living in a time of profound transformation. The old order it's crumbling, and a new era is dawning.
Yeah.
These prophecies, they invite us to participate in this process of renewal, both individually and collectively.
So it's not just about passively waiting for the Messiah to show up and fix everything.
Right.
We actually have a role to play.
We do. We have an active role. The concept of tikkun olam.
Right.
Repairing the world. It's central to Jewish thought.
Yeah.
It emphasizes that we're not just, observers.
Mm-hmm.
We're active participants in shaping a better future.
So instead of obsessing over dates and decoding cryptic prophecies,
right,
we should focus on living our lives in a way that aligns with these, with principles of justice and compassion.
Exactly.
Renewal.
Exactly. The true test of our understanding isn't, whether we can predict the future, but whether we're willing to embody these values in our daily lives.
Right.
It's about making choices that contribute to the betterment of humanity.
Yeah.
Working towards a world that reflects those higher ideals.
That makes a lot of sense. But I'm still curious about Israel's role in all of this. If this truly is a time of unprecedented change, where does Israel fit into the picture?
Well, the video that we've been discussing, it definitely positions Israel at the very heart of these prophetic events. Its history, its geography, its very existence, it seems to be intertwined with the destiny of the world.
It's like Israel is a microcosm of the larger cosmic struggle between good and evil, light and darkness.
That's a powerful analogy, and the choices that its leaders make and its people, they have the potential to ripple outwards. Yeah. Impacting the course of history.
So we're not just talking about a regional conflict here. The stakes are much higher.
The video certainly suggests that. It implies that the fate of the world may hinge on the choices that are made in this small but profoundly significant land.
This is a lot to process. It feels like we've only just scratched the surface of a vast and complex subject.
We have, and perhaps that's the beauty of it. These prophecies, these ancient texts, they invite us to engage in a lifelong journey of exploration and discovery. They challenge us to grapple with big questions and to seek deeper meaning in the events that are unfolding around us.
It's definitely given me a lot to think about. I feel like I need to go back and reread those biblical passages, with fresh eyes, considering everything that we've talked about today.
I encourage you to do so. And remember, these are just interpretations.
Yeah.
There are many different perspectives within Jewish thought. And these prophecies have been, they've been debated and discussed for centuries. The beauty is in the ongoing dialogue, the constant exploration of these ancient wisdom traditions.
Yeah, that's a great reminder. I think we've reached the end of our deep dive for today, but this is really just the beginning of the conversation.
It is.
We encourage you to explore these prophecies further, to ponder their meaning, and to consider their relevance to your own life. Who knows? You might uncover insights that we missed.
That's right. And if you do, we'd love to hear from you. We're always eager to learn and to delve deeper into these mysteries.
Absolutely. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep the faith.